Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Drumcast with Datorama, not just any insightful day, reframing the data discussion. My name is Naomi Taylor from the Drum, and I'll be your host today. And I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by our friends who are over in the States and in Shrewsbury. Julie from Datorama, which is a Salesforce company, and Stuart Arrowsmith from Crowd. So we all know that data lies at the heart of most marketers' decisions, but often it can be really difficult to know which insights are the most important for meeting brand objectives and ensuring that internal communications match a brand's real messaging. Understanding data performance can help marketers to work out a campaign's success and to contribute to marketers finding out whether there's any scope for uncovering new opportunities. So luckily, we have our excellent speakers here with us today. Julie Norman is on the product marketing team at Datorama and works really closely with clients and internal teams to define, position, and bring to market solutions that really leverage centralized marketing data intelligence and analytics. And we also have the lovely Stuart Arrowsmith, who's head of data visualization at Crowd, overseeing their data team, client offering across multiple platforms, and Stuart also promotes a philosophy of visual engagement and bespoke insights, not just data for its own sake. So I'm not going to ramble on to you about data because we've got the experts here. So I'll just give you a few pieces of housekeeping. We love to have an interactive webinar at the Drum, so if you have any insights, any comments, please do pop it into the chat box at the side and we can ask your questions at the end of the Drumcast today. And without further ado, I'll let Julie take it away.
Great. Thanks, Naomi. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I want to start by taking a quick moment to level set. Salesforce acquired us coming up on almost a year ago already, and the reason they did this is because what we do is we specialize in marketing intelligence here at Datorama. And what I'm referring to when I say that is we understand marketers' pain points around the difficulty in creating a single source of truth. And we provide a fast, transformative, and insightful solution that relieves those marketing-specific pain points. So on the left here, you can see the solution sets and tools within Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And our role within Salesforce Marketing Cloud is to automate and bring in data from those platforms, as well as data from Google, from Facebook, Instagram, and other technology solutions and walled gardens to create a unified single source of truth for marketers. The reason the automation of this process is so important is because today's marketers work within a very complex environment where they're often having to navigate multiple regions or business units or manage different product lines. And then from there, they're constantly having to hit various goals, whether those goals are around sales targets, conversions, brand awareness, driving trial, brand loyalty, whatever the goal may be. But marketers engage and drive conversation with their consumers with marketing campaigns that are often deployed through a number of combinations of the different channels and technologies that are listed here. And the marketing landscape continues to evolve and grow. So you can see here that back in 2011, there were just a couple hundred ad tech and martech solutions in the market, while today there are over 7,000. And this is great because it gives marketers a lot more options to work with, but it also adds new levels of complexity around data and data analysis. And this is due to that inherent disconnect between those different data sources and marketers. So it's very common that in order to gain full campaign transparency or gain comprehensive marketing insight, marketers, analysts, IT departments, or agencies are left manually sewing together these disparate data sources. And as you can imagine, it's very time-consuming, it's very tedious, and it's very error-prone. But this unification of data is a necessary step that needs to be taken before marketers can holistically answer questions around how to best manage ROI or their budget allocations or how to optimize their spend and ultimately drive growth. And that's where we at Datorama really come into play. So what we're good at is relieving this painful process. We're one of the leading platforms that connects and unifies all of your your marketing data, sorry, your investments and your KPIs. And through AI-powered marketing intelligence, we really put marketers in control to have that ownership where they're able to connect data, to analyze across channels and campaigns, to quickly surface the right insights, and collaborate across teams to drive ROI and growth for their businesses. And thousands of brands, agencies, and publishers rely on our automation and upfront heavy lifting to really enable them to make smarter decisions, and all at the speed of their customers. So we help companies by really helping them understand who their customer is through all types of data and a single source of truth, and by helping them use their data to then deliver personalized, real-time experiences that are powered by AI. And then we help them engage with their customers throughout the entire customer journey. And then finally, we help them analyze the impact of all of their efforts in order to optimize their marketing mix or maximize ROI and drive that growth. Okay, so now that you know a bit about Datarama, I am going to hand it off to Stuart, who's going to discuss how he's really enhancing and reframing the discussion around data.
Thanks, Julie, and thank you to everybody at Salesforce, Datarama, and of course the Drum for giving me the platform to speak to everybody today. In today's webinar, we're going to be talking about building a robust data structure. You'll notice that the subheading is reframing the data discussion. That's because in doing that, I hope to really question some of the standardized practices that we've used to kind of do that over the years. Just to tell you a little bit about me, I've got 7 years industry experience across 4 different agencies. I've helped lots of big brands on this journey, and I'm familiar with a lot of the discussions that kind of facilitate the evolution of strong data strategy. I've also got a background in design, which I feel gives me a slightly more of a unique perspective on some of the trends that I'm seeing across data visualization at the moment. And I'll be talking about the ways that you can leverage that for your business a little bit later on. So if we can move on to the overview slide. So I think what's crucial at the moment to start with is that we really analyze what we're doing. The process of data visualization, we're all about analytics, drilling down and asking why. So let's start there. Data visualization, what is it? If you put in data visualization into Google, you'll get this definition, which is 100% accurate, but not incredibly helpful. If you just move the slide on a little, I came up with my own definition, which I think speaks a little bit more to my own experience of what my day-to-day and my team's day-to-day looks like in terms of data management. Really we are engaged in the curation and communication of ideas from a board level to turn those ideas then into the components of data which answer the questions, feed that information into a platform such as Datarama, generate dashboards that then give those ideas back to the boardroom, who will then send out more ideas, and the process goes on and on and on, or it should if all goes well. If we can move on from there, my agenda, I've just gone to look at those key points and break them down. So we're going to look at how to ask the right questions. Then we're going to look at how to translate those into data. And then finally, how to turn those generated insights into engaging dashboards that are bespoke for your end user. So we start with a quote that I found in researching this. It's quite an interesting quote, and I think it speaks to the new problems that marketers face. It used to be that marketers had so much data, they didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know how to house it. They didn't know how to perhaps use spreadsheets to pivot it and get what they needed out of it. But actually now it's that you have too many insights. So platforms are getting far more evolved. We're witnessing democratization of data. But like so many times when tech is rolled out, the skill set to utilize it is often slightly behind the ability of technology to evolve. So how can we avoid a situation where we're getting too many insights and we're reaching this kind of business inertia where we have so many ideas, so many insights that we can't move forward. We don't know which one to progress with. So if we go on, what we need to do is know how to ask the right questions. We need to hone our questions when we start the process so that the insights that come out are more refined and are more specifically tailored to answering our business questions. If we just take some examples that I've put together for you to follow, this is at a board level now. So, I mean, ideally, data strategy needs to start at a board level, or it certainly needs to have a lot of input at board level, because people at that level understand where the business is going. They understand what their medium and long-term objectives are, and they can contextualize all the activity that goes on. I would use the following questions to kind of crystallize your intent and understand your intent going in. So what does success look like for you? Is it just simply you want to drive more sales and more revenue as a result? Is it that you want more leads? Do you want more visitors to your site? How do you measure that? So, for example, you could have a final objective, a conversion on your site, but there will be indicative actions that users will take on your site, which are precursors to that, which will let you know how close you were to a conversion on a given occasion. So it's important to know those and have that information to hand going in. What do you want to do post-implementation? So with the dashboards that you have at the end, are they going to meet the use cases in your business? And that's why it's so important to involve the rest of the business in this process. There's likely going to be people at your board level, people at a management level, people at an exec level, who are all going to use the dashboards in different ways. And so you're going to need to cater for that in the results that you show at the end and the way you actually format that data. And then finally, what levels will you need to apply our taxonomy? So that's a bit of a scary phrase. Taxonomy just means a naming convention, which we'll talk about in the next section. You need to think about what you need to know and at what level in your data you need to know it. So if we can move on. So speaking the same language. So here I want to kind of address the taxonomy part of this directly, because I think it is so important. If we move into the next slide, I'll kind of use the analogy of naming convention as a DNA, because it really is. It's the structure of a data strategy that really underpins everything. It holds it together. It takes the components of your question and breaks them down so that you can reconstruct the answers at the end of the process. This slide's very elaborate, but really what it is just a series of words with an underscore in between. I'm sure marketers that listen to this will know exactly what I'm referring to by the items that are on the the DNA string here. But with things like platform, ad size, strategy, are they new or returning customers that you're looking to engage with? Is it branded generic activity that you're running? Because obviously they behave differently. Which device are you using? Which channel? Which market? And then a section at the end for any additional detail. Taxonomy is a strange thing in that it's in some ways sounds incredibly simple, but in my experience, it's actually something that a lot of clients fall down on, a lot of businesses fall down on, because it gets set up by somebody who perhaps understands the reason and intent behind it. Those people might leave, those people might go to a different department, and then it gets passed around and changed and augmented, and then it's passed between different departments where there isn't any context to the data anymore. And so actually, across marketing, it costs businesses an awful lot of money. You have ad ops departments to try and fix these issues with naming conventions, but really it comes down to some very basic, and some would say like fairly boring admin that just needs to happen, because it facilitates all the amazing things that we can do with data. And probably the best advice I could give you would be to create a spreadsheet, take these columns as headers, and then just have a formula column that just concatenates them together with an underscore. Can we just move to the next slide, please? So all of that is great. So say you believe me, you're doing those things, you've created your spreadsheet. That's fantastic. But these things live or die based on the people who perform those actions on a day-to-day basis, and selling the benefit of what you're doing and explaining the context is something of a lost art or a missed opportunity that businesses seem to fail to take. You know, you're delegating this task down. You know, I just was describing a scenario where teams and people change. You're delegating this down to people who aren't at a board level. You know, there'll probably be executives or managers who are actually implementing an awful lot of media activity at any one time, and you're just telling them to do something. So it just becomes an item in a list of things they have to do that day. They don't necessarily understand the cost of fixing problems when people don't follow naming conventions, that it can cause all kinds of issues further down the line. It can cause confusion for clients if you're on the agency side, frustration for seniors if you're a standalone business, you're doing it in-house. So it really helps to not just explain the benefit of your structure at a business level. You know, we'll be able to understand complex questions, we'll be able to make money, but actually also to explain it at an individual level, at a team level. So you might want to, use items like I have in my list here. So, it's going to save time when we're naming future activity. If you're churning out lots and lots of activity, the sooner you can get it named and put it in the system, the better. It's going to help us to diagnose problems more easily. If we're all using the same format, we always have used the same format, it's going to be much, much easier to get to the crux of an issue as it occurs. It's going to be easier to teach new team members. Someone comes on board, you can use the same training material over and over again. You're going to know that parameter one is going to be your market, or it's going to be the brand, and you can kind of teach from there. And if you've got the template in place, it means that somebody can very quickly go from entry level to maybe like in month 2 or 3 to actually applying those naming conventions and having it QA'd. So it's actually a really powerful tool, cheap to implement, but it just takes a little bit of time and understanding to really create that culture and add value to that data. And finally, it's going to help answer questions more quickly, and that really kind of aligns with a broader business objective. So whereas people at board level might be saying it's going to help us understand where we could navigate our ad spend in a more smart way. So perhaps we're spending a little bit too much over here, not enough over there, but we're driving more conversions at less cost. Why don't we reattribute budget? But at a team level, it could be, well, how can I explain to my client on Monday morning why performance wasn't so good? But because they've got such a good data structure, they'll be able to then talk about how that actually happened cross-channel, and hopefully with a lot less complications and frustrations in actually doing that than they had before. So now I'm going to talk about what we do with those insights. So say we've followed this process all the way through, we've carefully crafted our question, we've taken time to really understand the way that we can turn that question into a naming convention that is going to endure and going to be communicated well to all the people in our business. We now need to think very carefully about the way we display that data. Now, Datarama is a fantastic platform in that there is an awful lot of out of the box functionality in there. You can very easily throw in tables and charts and graphs, so things that might have taken a lot longer in Excel. They did. I used to do it all in Excel, so I have a great appreciation for the platform. But it's not the out-of-the-box widgets aren't the best approach for every stakeholder, or certainly in my experience anyway. So Datarama have they spent a lot of time and effort adding features into the platform that you can use to differentiate yourself, to tailor your insights to your clients. One of those things they have is a custom widget type where you can use any web-based language, so HTML, CSS, or JavaScript, to really use, if you like, a creative digital persuasion. So all of the techniques that I was familiar with as a designer before I came into digital now become pertinent, because we can use color theory, we can use user experience, We can use, change fonts. So we can make things, make an experience of our data, which hopefully will build retention. And after all, if you want to attribute value to an exercise, and we will have spent money in following the exercise to this point, the payoff, short of actually making more money or more exposure within your business, is actually going to be engagement from stakeholders. So if you are an agency, you want to engage senior stakeholders on the client side, because that is the genesis of strong client relationships. Rather than a client saying to their juniors, tell me how performance was, if they can go in and look at your dashboards, assign a value to those dashboards, so see that demonstrates your skill, but also enjoy that experience and do it again, you're going to see, well, hopefully you're going to see a scenario where they will then want to spend more money with you and perform more activity through you, because they can immediately see the insights and they're presented back to them in a way that they can very easily digest and action. Can we move to the next slide, please? So this kind of shows the audience split that I was talking about here. As you can see, you've got two main pools. The majority of dashboards that I see in whatever platform tend to be tailored more to the practitioner level on the left-hand side. So people who would be probably implementing the naming conventions that I was talking about or overseeing that. They're going to be executives, managers, senior managers, perhaps even directors, dealing with day-to-day management of those accounts and reporting it back. They need that standardized visual language that we've come to expect from spreadsheet programs like Excel and perhaps even Google Sheets, your tables, your bar charts and your pie charts. There's absolutely still a place for them. But it's on the leadership level side, on the right-hand side, that we really need to understand that the behaviors are different. The amount of time that they have to spend is much, much shorter. So, engagement and smart user experience becomes all that more important. Basically, anything that is a differentiator that might make them spend a little bit longer on that dashboard can actually be a massive benefit to your business if you're an agency, or to how your data team is perceived within a business. So just to kind of talk about the leadership level, I mentioned it here really, they're more interested in top line trends. So it's, a broader view, as we said before, there's much less time to view, and they want a simplified view, what can we do? Where can we better spend money? They don't have time to dive into the detail. And what's probably happened, I would imagine, to this point is they would just call somebody in from that practitioner level to talk them through those dashboards. But imagine if that didn't need to happen, or certainly that only needs to happen every so often, and that your dashboards are actually picking up that slack and doing that job and demonstrating value. That's something that's worth thinking about, and that's something that we really push for at Crowd. So if we have a quick look at the skills that I think data teams should be really thinking about cultivating in light of this, have a look at infographics. So infographics are considered quite old school, but because we are now in the era of vertical scrolling dashboards, all of those same skills that we see in infographics are revived. They're real again. As I said at the kind of the start of this session, your color theory and using the right font and the user experience, tracking people's attention from top to bottom and guiding them to the points that are of the most interest are really pertinent skills now in data visualization, probably more than ever before. So not just can I apply the same colors as my client's brand or my agency brand, but actually, what do I want the client to experience when they look at this data? Where do I want them to look first? And I think that's a really interesting way to approach them. And the other is UX design. I guess complements what I just said, but you might want to look, or at least think about what you do when you're on the web, which websites you most feel comfortable with and interact with, and why that is. So, for example, the Facebook sidebar now is probably as valid an item for a data discussion as an Excel table or a big page of statistics in a traditional format, because people engage with it for a long period of time. They can find what they need. What is it about that? Is it about actually the CRO of it, the layout of the items on it? Is it the color of it? Is it that it's very functional? It does exactly what it's supposed to do? Is it a kind of like a secret source of all of those things? So definitely worth just having a think about that and how it relates to the dashboards that your team submit to your wider business or indeed your clients. So how can we really push forward and leverage this at a team level? And this is something that I've been thinking an awful lot about recently. Obviously, having my own data team here at Crowd, very fortunate in that I'm able to action a lot of the things that I'm saying to you now. Having worked at big network agencies, I can tell you that a lot of the teams that are highlighted in this diagram are already in existence. There is a certain degree of web development, a little bit of UX design, be that maybe perhaps tallied with CRO, analytics and data visualization. So actually those skills are already there, but much like I guess in the way that Datorama combines data from lots of different points, what we actually need to do is combine those skills, or at least sit those people close together so that we can get that cross-skill collaboration. So it's kind of going to be a combination really of looking at the people that are in your data team, understanding where you are strong in this diagram, understanding perhaps where you're weak, and you can correct that balance either by getting some external trainers to come in. You can change the way that you mark people that you're hiring, for example. So someone who's perhaps an 8 in data but a 9 in web dev, you might hire them, whereas before you might have not for the reverse reason. But bringing somebody in whose strength isn't 100% data visualization, but is in web development, might mean that those skills permeate to somebody who's great at analytics, somebody who's great at data visualization, and then you start to get those spark lines, so that the yellow lines around the edges of those polygons that I was talking about. And that's really where I think potentially we could really push things forward in terms of data visualization, into 2019 and 2020, as that technology to marry design and analytic insight really comes into its own. So kind of in closing, I would definitely encourage everybody to think about taking this on, even if you don't necessarily want to jump straight into custom widgets. It's definitely a process that begs taking a step back and thinking about in a lot of detail. But what I would say is that Crowd have done all of these things, and we've seen great results. So generally, when I guess I don't have to tell most of the people who are tuned in, but when you engage clients and they enjoy looking into their dashboards, you're able to then showcase the work that you do, win new business, win new market brands from existing clients, as well as pitch for new business and differentiate yourself in the market. And that's what it's all about. Thank you very much for your time. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Stuart. That was really interesting, especially the link between taxonomy and DNA. It really sort of brings us back to the fact that like behind every sort of data point, there's a human, isn't there? And
yeah, absolutely.
we can forget that sometimes. So that was really interesting. Thank you very much. We've got time for a few questions. So the first one kind of leads back to the very beginning when we were talking about the fact that today we just have so many insights. Like how can you cut through? So what advice? I know you gave us a few examples of what questions companies could ask, but what advice would you give to them when it comes to framing their business questions? What sort of key pieces would you give attendees to take away?
I would say most definitely understand your intent going in. So having insights is not a good enough objective with which to start on the journey of a data strategy, because it's going to be too broad a funnel for you. You need to take what you know about your business and aim to prove or disprove something. So if you haven't got an idea of where you want to go, I would definitely recommend that. So we think that we drive an awful lot of interest to people who live in this country and convert on this device. We've seen really good results on that. Try and prove or disprove that, and think about all of the context you would need to truly answer that question from a scientific perspective. You know, if you were trying to answer that beyond reasonable doubt, which is, I guess, the best we can ever hope to achieve. Ensure clear communication. So, you know, to your point, it's all about people. Like, data and tech problems are really people problems, communication problems, and understand that not everybody's a data person, and that's fine. That's okay. Tech is here to try and bridge those gaps, but you still need specialists. And so it's really important for people in data teams to understand top-line business objectives so that they can contextualize the data that's coming their way. And it's also important for people in the boardroom to understand the frustrations that go on at team level when they're trying to implement this, and also to work with the data team to coach the rest of the business. So perhaps if things don't happen, things don't get named the way that they should, for everybody to work together and understand that, you know, it's a team sport, and we're all going to benefit from those changes.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, I think, and also, you know, a big part of what you've been speaking about today, that kind of links into that contextualizing point, is that it's kind of a translation game. You're making the data accessible for people to understand it and be able to, you know, get on board with it. So it's really, really important. And so we have a kind of a question about design and how kind of relating to you know, the skills that you were talking about, what you think data teams should have as skills, you know, like looking at infographics and UX. How can smart design drive engagement and ultimately add value if the right insights are extracted from data?
I think potentially this is one of the hardest nuts to crack, but actually the most beneficial, if you like. So there are undoubtedly people within each business who don't interact with their dashboards, who don't interact with the insights from their dashboards, just they interact with their team, and they're generally quite senior people with no time. By getting to them, by demonstrating your work to them and giving them a grassroots understanding of their business, the actual, you know, you can almost see your business breathing through data if it's set up correctly, and identify those trends quickly. You're marrying fantastic business instinct then with the best of analytics, with the best of UX and user experience. You know, you can create a scenario where, you know, somebody who doesn't necessarily interact with their dashboards could quickly just turn on their mobile, look, see what performance was that day, go in the boardroom and have a robust discussion about what to do about it. And that's the difference. It's from data to action, and anything that narrows that gap is only going to be welcomed, I think, by the business, because time is literally money. So by saving time and increasing action, you know, you're gonna hopefully ensure that you can act quicker than your competitors in the same space who perhaps haven't done the same things.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And we've got time for one final question. What are the sort of key takeaways that you want people to take away with them today after listening to the Drumcast? What 3 points do you want people to remember about data visualization?
I think I would definitely say that data isn't just for an elite. It's one of those things where there's a lot of, you know, it gets kind of mystified. You know, you have data speak and then you have business speak, and they're not always the best channels for learning. Really just take the time to look at your own business and the potential for it, and ask lots and lots of questions about each step along the way. And I think if you follow that route, you won't go too far wrong.
Brilliant. So asking the right questions, I like it. Thank you so much
No problem.
to Julie and Stuart for joining us, and our partners Datarama and Crowd. You can listen back to the webinar at www.thedrum.com/webinar, and we hope you tune in to our next session.
Goodbye.